Like ringing?
That's right. That's the Leib. What he said was it's too loud. So the only thing I can do at this point is the louder. It's a very special type of logic that Leib has.
You've been to too many concerts and your ears are shot. You're
What?
too sensitive. Okay?
What? I can't hear you speak.
You know what? Cut me some slack. You trying to bust my? You trying to bust my job?
Well, me? Why would I would never. Chas v'cholens. Why would I ever do such a thing? Me? Why would you ever think? Oh, by the way, I want to say we have a special guest. If you remember our special Boris Kashina, all the way from Russia. He's with us here on the phone. And this time it's not because he's hiding from the KGB. It's because he's hiding from Van Holle and Morristown. Almost the same thing. So Boris,
don't find. Hey, Boris, they're gonna find you. Just remember, you can hide. You can hide in the clefts of the rock, buddy. But they'll find you.
I'm hiding in the janitor's closet now.
Let me ask you this, Boris: did you eat the food?
Yes, it's better than Anasa.
If you did, you can't escape.
That's it. Yeah, and once you eat the food in time Timimim, then it's all done. It's gone kaput. See you later, baby.
And you tried the food in Tiferes.
Yes.
If you don't believe it, look what happened to her.
Yeah. By the way, the food in Tiferes is almost the same, but it's similar. Only first they give it to the Bacharim and Taimche, they eat it up and expel it, and then they give it to the Bacharim in Tiferes.
Oh, that's how the Seder Histoshelus works. You know.
Seder Histoshelus for food and water. Yes, that's all.
Tiferes is really just the waste material of Tomchai.
But no one realizes that's
right.
really our Chayzer.
Am I right?
Let's start the show before we run out of gas.
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah.
What time?
I only hope that all that was recorded.
No, most of it was not recorded. Only that your noodling you were doing, I did record. But the conversation, I didn't.
That's really a shame. That was the best part.
That was the best thing that happened yet.
Right. A million laughs. A million laughs.
Oh, anyways, we ready to start?
Yeah, I guess so.
We ready to start. story, but wait. Hey, kids, what time is it?
Time for Gezintahait.
The story for tonight, the parsha for this week is Lecha, which means you should go out. And this is a story about how the Rebbe had a conversation with somebody and influenced him to go out of his own boundaries. It was in 1952. It was a Purim. The Rebbe had just accepted the Rebbe-ship in 1950. It was a Purim Farbrengen. In those days, there weren't so many Hasidim. It was held in a small shul on the second floor of 770. There was a college student who was standing in the doorway. He wanted to say L'chaim to the Rebbe. When the Rebbe saw him, he motioned him to come into the room. This is in the middle of a Farbrengen. The Rebbe started having a conversation with this student. The Rebbe asked him, "What's your name?" He answered, "My name is Isaac." The Rebbe said, "What's your Hebrew name?" He answered, "I don't know." The Rebbe said, "Who were you named after?" He said, "I think I was named after Isaac, our forefather." The Rebbe said, "Your Hebrew name is Yitzchak, after Yitzchak Avinu." "And what was Yitzchak's occupation?" the Rebbe asked. "And what service did he do for Hashem?" "I don't know," said the young man. The Rebbe explained that Yitzchak, our father's service, was digging wells. The student said, "Oh, I thought he was a holy man who spent all his time learning Torah, not physically digging wells." The Rebbe said that digging wells is not so simple. In fact, Yitzchak's inner intention was very deep. You surely know, the Rebbe said, that water exists way down in the earth. And to reach it, one must completely remove the earth that is blocking the way. The waters in the depth of the earth are given by Hashem, but can only be realized when the earth is removed. Then the creation called water could be revealed. The Rebbe continued, every Jew has the responsibility to do the service of Yitzchak, to help another Jew by removing the surface earth and revealing the Jewish spark within him. And how is it done, the Rebbe asked? When you walk on the street and you see a Jew, ask him if he put on tefillin yet today. And if not, suggest that he start today to put on tefillin every day. Hearing this, the young man jumped from his place. He said, "What? I'm a student in university. I'm preparing for my career. You're asking me to give up my career and start getting people to put on tefillin? This is in a Farbrengen and Purim in public." The Rebbe said, "I'm not asking you to give up your plans. You'll be able to continue as you are doing. Just remember, a Jew is created to accomplish a mission, to receive and to give. Furthermore, what you need to share cannot be accomplished by anyone else. I," the Rebbe said, pointing to himself, "am not able to accomplish your mission. Only you can be successful in accomplishing your particular mission. Therefore, you have that responsibility." The student said, "But I myself don't put on tefillin. How can I influence another to do so?" Despite that, the Rebbe said, which you haven't put on tefillin yet, since you have the responsibility to influence another, therefore, to accomplish your mission, it's necessary for you to start to wear tefillin. He told that boy, go out of your own limits. Go out of your own idea of what you think you are and what your life is to accomplish what Hashem wants, to go out of limits and to connect with the infinite. Do we have a niggun to top that one off? Wait,
Yes, I think so.
you want to do a niggun?
Here we go.
There he goes. Okay. Wait, I can hear it good on the mics. Keep going.
You good?
Hey, yeah.
Yo, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. I hope everybody listened chaps how cool that swing version is of that. This week is Parshas Lecha, where Hashem tells Abraham to go out. And there's two dynamics in this going out. He says, Lech, go, Lecha, to yourself. You have to go out, and what we learned from this commandment that Abraham got was how we should act. We have to go out of self-limits. Hashem told Abraham, Go out of your land. That's the environment and the influences from the environment. Go out of your birthplace, which is your nature, and go out of your father's house, which is your intellectual idea of how you should act. Go out of all these limits to serve Hashem beyond intellect. And through that, you'll go to yourself. You'll get to your own essence. Your true essential self. That's what Hashem says, the land that I will show you. Land in Hebrew is eretz, indicates ratzon, desire to know one's true inner self and inner desire. We're walking around in the world. People that don't have Hashem don't really know what they really want. And this thing of knowing your own self and knowing your true inner desire can be accomplished through the Hasidic service. First, go out of self-limits by connecting to the infinite. And the Alter Rebbe caused a revolution by explaining how you don't have to have a very lofty soul, and you don't have to do self-mortification to become refined enough to understand godliness. It can be accomplished through the intellect. We can connect to the infinite through our intellect. That's called Chabad. From our own attributes of our soul, our intellect, and our emotions, we can understand the godly attributes. A person knows he has a soul. He might not know what that soul is, but how it works, he knows. The powers of the soul is what enlivens his body. In the Hasidic service, Chachma, wisdom, is the nullification, and faith that Hashem brought us out of the constraints and slavery of Egypt, slavery to physical desires, and he brought us out to be our God. How? Through giving us the Torah. The level of understanding, Bina, is the contemplation, hisbonanos, and understanding of the workings of the king, from whose word, which his word is his name, all existence is enlivened and brought into being. That's Chachma and Bina, wisdom and understanding. Das, which means they translate as knowledge, is not like knowledge, like the world understands what knowledge is.
Bezalel,
Yeah.
you got to see this.
Where's the camera?
He's still trying not to bump it.
Is that right here?
Wait, what am I seeing? Oh, the Yiddish with a fiddle.
I told you I was
Hey, welcome.
Oh,
Yellow bot. Look at that.
That's great.
Is that wild? Dogs.
We're all
Cool.
Well, check it out, Hirsch.
Do you know, Yiddish with a fiddle, do you know that all existence is enlivened and brought into being from Hashem's name?
You know that you don't
Hear that? Hear that?
What?
You know what he said? He said it all.
And the level of das, which means knowledge, is not like the world thinks knowledge is, which is a knowledge of facts. No. Knowledge means bonding. Like parents bond with the child. They know the child because they bond with the child. They don't know the child intellectually. They know the child organically. And to illustrate it, I want to bring a story from a big holy rabbi that I had the honor of knowing, Rabbi Reichik. And I asked him one time, I said, why is it that I have such an essential love for my kids? Why can't I just have an intellectual love and know they're my kids and I have to take care of them? Why is it when the kid cries, I jump? And he stopped and he said, because Hashem wants you to know how he loves you. That's why he lets you have this essential love for your children. So this level of das, this level of bonding and knowledge, is like Adam knew Eve. They were bonded as one. And through our power of das over intellect, we bond with the essence of the thing, the infinite one, godliness, which is being explained by the wisdom and the knowledge. I'm going to give an example of the contemplation, and the reason is to show how we can get out of our own limits by connecting with Hashem. Nothing makes itself. I think we can all agree that nothing makes itself. So when we start to contemplate how it works, and when we start to understand godliness, it's realized as a rarefied and elegant, sophisticated, intellectual endeavor. But finally, we realize it's much more than that. It's not just an amazing, fascinating intellectual exercise. It's a godly intellect, which when comprehended, causes one to feel happy and satisfied with what he has understood. I feel good. I am happy. But at the same time, he feels bitter and self-nullified. For after all, he has not gotten Hashem. He didn't get God. He just got an explanation of how Hashem works in contracting himself to relate to limited worlds and creations. An example of this contemplation, how a person can get out of his limits through contemplating godliness. Some countries are cold, like Pittsburgh. Some countries are hot, like Florida. Some grow certain things, and others grow other things, according to the climate and earth chemistry. Some grow smart people, or strong people, or beautiful people, all according to the constellations, to the mazalos, and the physical position on the earth, and how they react to the heavenly bodies like the sun and the moon, etc. And that sun and the moon and the heavenly bodies are manifestations of spiritual powers. And each particular species, and even each particular creature, is influenced and made to grow according to its own mazel, to its own place in the constellation. One has a sweet voice, like Lech. Why? Because the mazel for that person's voice is kindness, which is chesed. And those mazalos, those constellations, are ultimately under the influence and direction of the wheel angels, whose dregs create the spiritual energy for the turning of all the galaxies and all the myriad spiritual turntables that turn the physical universe. And each troop of this heavenly array is composed of 10,000 times 10,000 members. I think that means 1 million. While those troops of 1 million are so many, they're beyond counting. And those wheel angels, in turn, receive from the holy animal angels, the Chayz HaKodesh, the face of the lion, the face of the eagle, the face of the bull, the face of the man, which are the spiritual source and template for all living creatures. And these, in turn, these holy animals, angels, receive from the overflow of the fiery angels, which are called archangels. And these archangels express their love and awe for the king, ascending 3 levels of realization of how exalted is Hashem from this whole heavenly and earthly choreography. They say, holy, 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 which means removed, removed, and exalted is the Lord of hosts. And still the whole earth is filled of his glory. And all this comes about from the speech, the decree of the king from Malchus of this lowly world of action. And as far as we have ascended, we have reached only a glimmer of a gleam, of a reflection, not of Hashem himself, but only of a ray from his name. How he works in enlivening and bringing the creation into being. And there are 2 simultaneous and contradictory feelings that result from this contemplation. 1, we feel satisfied and happy in learning and knowing and comprehending how Hashem works, his awesome works. And at the same time, we feel bitter and we realize our own insignificance in the face of his greatness. And the fact that Hashem himself is seen to much further away, the more we understand his workings. And ideally, this contemplation causes a thirst, like fiery flames of desire to be included in godliness, to go out of ourselves to be included in Hashem. But if we're not on a level to do this detailed contemplation, I don't see why we're not. I just explained it in a way we can understand. But if we're not on that level, we can start with a general contemplation. We thank Hashem for the soul that he gives to us. And we bless Hashem for the Torah that he gives us. And this will draw down godliness into the world. Now, before we get into this parsha, which is Lecha, go out of yourself, I think we could have a nigun. If you guys
but
are ready.
first, before we have the nigun, before we go into the nigun, I have a question from a viewer.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott Eller wants to know, how does one find his mission?
Well, the beginning of it, I would think, is to humbly ask Hashem that he would allow you to serve him. And then Hashem will bring you to the place where you can start to serve him. And that serving him is your mission. If you're smarter than that, so you understand that your mission is to accomplish the commandments of the Torah, which starts when you get up in the morning, when you say, thank you, Hashem, for giving me my soul. That's the best I could do on one foot.
So that's great. You start in the morning, you say, Moida Ani, thank you, Hashem, for giving my soul. And so you're recognizing that everything comes from Hashem and that your mission is tied to spreading Hashem's name. And then you can start to understand what the mission is.
And if he wants more by detail, so he could get in touch.
Okay.
Gezintahait at gmail.com.
Yeah, Gezintahait at gmail.com if you want to email Bezalel for a more in-depth conversation. Okay, Kevin, now we go. It's time for some music, maybe.
Yes.
I did it, 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 I did it.
Oh yeah. You guys do a groovy thing that takes you out of the moment. Lech Lecha with that music.
Amazing.
Yes.
This parsha again is Lech Lecha, where Hashem tells Abraham to go out from his limits and to go to himself. Everything in Torah is a teaching to us. It's not just an old, quaint story. Furthermore, we have to live with the spiritual dynamic today in our lives. So the question arises, the service of Abraham, Abraham's mission, the gentleman was asking how to find out what his mission is. The mission of Abraham was to prepare the world to receive the Torah. And we received the Torah already. So what lesson can we get from Abraham's mission? He prepared the world for the Torah and we got the Torah. So what did we learn in our own service from it? The Rebbe says the Torah is given new every day. So every day, like it says, no Saint HaTorah, the one who gives the Torah in the present tense. So every day, we have to prepare ourselves to receive the Torah anew. A second angle on this, and this is a thing not a lot of people know, Abraham was promised 10 countries, but we only received 7, the 7 nations of Canaan. The 3 new countries called Keni, Kenizi, and Kadmoni are a promise that we're going to receive when Mashiach comes. And it can be understood through a famous story in the Zohar. It says in the Tanya, that a king hires a temptress to tempt his son, to test the character of his son. And the Zohar tells the details of that story. The king tells the son, if you get involved with a bad woman, you'll never be admitted to the inner chambers of the palace. And then the king tested his son by hiring such a lady to tempt him. And she tried 3 different ways to weaken his resolve. She tried to hug him, she tried to kiss him, and she tried to speak nice words to him. The prince countered her advances in 3 ways. He pushed her away, he ignored her advances, and he scolded her. Having passed the test of temptation, the prince returned to the palace. And the king then brought his son into the innermost chambers of the palace that he was not allowed up till then to go into. And the king gave the son, the prince, 3 precious gifts. The Rebbe's father, Reb Lech, explains how the aspects of this story correspond to spiritual levels. The spheros in the world of Atzilus. The 3 emotive attributes of the side of evil. Hugging is kindness, and kissing is gevura, and speaking nice words is tiferes. And the prince countered those with the same emotive attributes from the holy side. He pushed her away, he yelled at her, whatever he did. His access to the inner chambers of the king represents the world to come. The inner chambers of the king is the world to come. The kings, in other words, the prince passed the test. And when he came back, the prince is the Jewish people. He got the reward of the world to come. And included in this is the 3 precious gifts that the king gave the son. And those 3 gifts, according to the Rebbe's father, is Chachma, Bina, and Das, the intellectual powers. How they are connected to the supernal crown, to the desire of Hashem. The only son of the king, the Jewish people, are able, through those 3 powers, through the intellect, to experiencing that in the world to come, which no eye has ever seen. The revelation of Hashem at the time of Mashiach. The Rebbe asked a question. When he was tested, and he went out and the temptress was tempting him, he had to be protected from the spirit of folly to go after her. And the way that one is protected from the spirit of folly was the intellect. So it would seem that he had to be given the 3 intellectual powers, Chachma, Bina, and Das, before he went to her. So what's the big deal that now, after he goes into the inner chambers and he passes the test, and now he gets the same 3 things, Chachma, Bina, and Das? The Rebbe asked the question. The answer is, there are 2 aspects to the intellect. One, the intellect is necessary to control and guide the emotions. And that's the mission, that's the work that we've been doing for the last thousands of years. We've been using the brain to prevail on the heart, to conquer the 7 nations, the emotional attributes, which are symbolized with the 7 nations of Canaan. But when the work of fixing the holy sparks that fell, and they have been elevated, we will receive the 3 new countries that Abraham was promised. The lands of Canaan, Kenizi, and Kadmoni, the intellect in order to realize godliness. And these represent the essential intellect called Mochen Be'etzem. And at that point, we'll have the intellectual capacity to experience godliness, not just about how Hashem works. We'll experience Hashem. We'll experience Hashem and perceive Him in the world to come through the revelation of Mashiach, through the new countries, this brain work, Avodas HaMochen. Now, on Cheshvan, in the year 5752, after the Rebbe declared that our work with the 7 nations is already accomplished, the buttons have been polished. Levi Yossin is on the table. It's time for the meal. He said, now we can begin that service of Mochen Be'etzem. We can begin the service of taking the 3 new countries of Canaan, Kenizi, and Kadmoni, which means our intellectual capacity to accept and reveal godliness. But there's a question. I don't see that perfection in myself. I don't see I perfected the world or myself. That's correct. But these are small boo-boos, the Rebbe says, on the general man of Israel, who over the last thousands of years has been perfecting the world. And these little boo-boos can be cured easily. How do we activate this mental capacity to realize godliness, to bring about the world to come? Through learning Torah about Mashiach. Particularly this avoda, this mission, this work of Mochen Be'etzem. The Rebbe said we can start now to make this revelation happen by learning Hasidus in depth, especially the Hasidus of the Mittler Rebbe. Maybe we should have a break now with a niggin, or you guys have a niggin, or should I keep going?
Yeah, we have a niggin.
Oh,
We have a niggin. This is a really good one.
oh, a really good one.
Which one do we
The
want?
blue, the blue. That's it. Okay.
Sounds like Morty is there. Is Morty there?
Yeah, he's here.
How cool is that?
Yeah, you can't even see my guitar. What point? What's the point of that? Okay, here we go. Ready?
Okay, all right, okay. Very groovy. I'm going to try
Yeah,
to
let's
share.
continue.
Let's see if I can share this thing if it came up, yeah.
I have something to say.
That was the lie ever won.
What is there something to say?
There you go.
That was big.
Here is the ineffable name of Hashem. Now, how this deal with this new three countries works, when we went out of Egypt, we went through the lower hay. See this last hay? And that's called the sea, the Yam. Remember, the sea split and we went through the sea. But the world to come, the higher hay, the river is going to open up into 7 streams, and we're going to walk through in our sandals. And that walking through is going to bring us to the new countries of Cani, Kenizi, and Kadmoni, where we're able to have the world to come, where we actually experience Hashem himself. And furthermore, in the Sikha, the Rebbe says an astounding thing. He says that according to the effort that a person puts into avodas hamochin in the deep Hasidus now to acquire the 3 new countries, then by just lifting a finger without putting much effort, his livelihood will come in a very wide way. And his intellect will widen. And then for sure, his emotional attributes will come along and also become very wide. Hey, Morty.
Hello.
To engage in this thing that's the opposite of intellect. That's higher than intellect. Really, most people would say, I don't have time for this Mochen Ba'asim. I don't have time for the Keni Kenizi Kadmoni. I have to make a living and provide for my family. But no, the Rebbe says, when you put your whole self into this Mochen Ba'asim, just by lifting a finger, you'll have a very wide livelihood. And the other thing the Rebbe says, in order to achieve this world to come, this revelation of God, to make simcha for Brangans, happy for Brangans, like Gezintahait Street, where Hasidus is explained. And in that vein, how are we doing on time? Are we running very late, or can I continue a little bit? Let's try. In that vein, there are 3 Torahs that bring the why and how of this Avodas HaMochen, Keni, Kenizi, and Kadmoni close to our understanding. And we said two of the Torahs already, the story of the Temptress and the Sikh of the Rebbe in Ches Cheshbon. The third Torah that explains this thing is that when Mashiach comes, he's going to have a 10-string guitar, a 10-string harp. The regular harp of David the Melech, David the king, was 7 strings. Those 7 strings represent the emotional attributes. And that's why he used to have this 7-string instrument hanging above his bed, and the north wind would come in and play it at midnight, and it would wake him up, and he would start learning Torah. Sometimes that stringed instrument of David or of Mashiach has 8 strings, which refers to the level of Bina higher than emotional attributes. But Mashiach, and I'm sure he's going to come in with that 10-string guitar here into Gezintahait Street pretty soon, is going to have a guitar with 10 strings. And that indicates after all the service is completed, there is no more service of selecting out the sparks and selecting the good, because it's all been selected already. And that's what we say in the davening on Shabbos, the song of Shabbos, Ole Asar, the 10-string guitar. And that's the idea of the completion of the 3 new countries of Keni, Kenizi, and Kadmoni. Now, before that revelation of the world to come, there's only the 7 strings, which means our war to accomplish choosing out the sparks of good. But the Rebbe says that has already been accomplished. And now we can start the mission of taking this gift of the new 3 lands. It's not a war, but it's a gift. It's given as a gift and an inheritance. And it says in the future that it will be given automatically when the 7 are done. And the Rebbe said the 7 are done. It means we can now have the 3 new countries. We can have the revelation of godliness of the world to come. And in order to accomplish it, we have to go out of our birthplace, to go out of our nature, to go out of our father's house, to go out of our intellectual realization of what's correct, to go out of our country, meaning to go out of what we think is wanted, to go into what Hashem wants, to go out of exile, and to achieve the revelation of the 3 new countries. To be able to start the future time. And that will be a revelation of the days of Mashiach, particularly going through the Hasidus of the Mittler Rebbe. He's called the Wide River. So we can go out of ourselves, we go out of our own desires, we can actually connect with the infinite. We can connect with Hashem himself through learning the deep Hasidus. That's the message for tonight. No. Gimel
I have
Aleph.
something to say.
Gimel Aleph. I'm sorry, Boris?
Well, I said I have something to say.
Yes, go. Say.
That the Niggun we think before, I think the Nikolaev one, I'm thinking what would happen if you think it after a couple of times.
Don't worry, we did.
that Bira also has been accomplished.
Don't worry, but Everything, Boris, don't worry, everything's okay.
Morty, you have a
I
niggin for
tried
us?
it once.
Morty,
Yeah,
you have a niggin for us?
I'm
He's
trying
sitting
to
there in the
unmute
dark. He
the
doesn't want to
mute
share with us.
thing.
You have a cymbal, you have a bongo drum, you have something.
We have all kinds of nitzicky niggin. We should sing.
Share something with us, Morty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my na na na, my yeah, my
Yeah, mama, yeah.
I can't hear the puppet.
Hey, hi. Ya mai, ya mai, la la la, mai, Boris, you know this one good.
Yay! Thank you, Mordechai. Thank you
You're
very
very
much.
welcome. Very welcome.
Okay, I'm going to do the sign-off niggin now. You ready? Gezintahait, 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 my friend. Remember, kids, gay Gezintahait. We want Mashiach now. Yay! Thank you, boys. That was a great show. It shows you there's some value in starting later.
Electromagnetic. Electrocardiogram. Electromagnetic.